The dust tasted like centuries. Lena Worth wiped her glove across the stone tablet, revealing symbols that nobody had bothered to read in 40 years. The sanctuary smelled of abandonment and something else. Something living. Her supervisor wanted her gone by next week. Director Torvin had made that clear during their last transmission. This place was a waste of resources, he said. Dragons were relics. Studying their empty buildings served no purpose. The real discoveries were happening 3 systems over, where a Kasiri team had found intact technology. That was worth funding. This was not. Lena did not care what Torvin thought. She had not become an archaeologist to chase fame or dig up gadgets for corporations to patent. She studied civilizations that vanished, languages that died, places where people once lived and loved and built things meant to last forever. The Dragon Sanctuary on Talus 7 was exactly that kind of place. The outer chambers had given her enough material for a basic report. Carved walls depicting dragon history, storage areas for what might have been food or fuel, living quarters sized for creatures 3 times larger than any species currently active in the galaxy. Everything abandoned in haste as if the dragons had left expecting to return soon. They never did. Lena descended deeper into the facility. Her scanner showed the layout extended 5 more levels underground. The architecture grew older as she went down, the designs more intricate. These lower levels predated the sanctuary by centuries. Someone had built on top of ancient ruins, hiding something beneath. The air grew warmer. Her suit sensors detected a heat source ahead, probably geothermal vents. The moon had active geology despite its small size. She marked the location and continued forward. The passage opened into a chamber larger than any she had seen. Her light barely reached the ceiling. Pillars thick as shuttles held up the roof. The walls were covered in inscriptions, not carved but seemingly burned into the stone itself. The symbols glowed faintly, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Then she saw him. The dragon lay in the center of the chamber. Chains were not holding him but words. Carved symbols surrounded him in 3 concentric circles, each ring glowing brighter than the walls. The light seemed to cause him pain. His scales, which should have gleamed, were dull gray. His wings were shattered in multiple places, bones jutting at wrong angles. One eye was clouded white. The other watched her approach. Lena had seen dragons before. Every museum had skeletons. Some wealthy collectors kept taxidermied specimens, a practice she found disgusting. But she had never seen a living dragon. Nobody had, not for decades. The species had scattered after losing their homeworld, vanishing into the outer reaches where surveys rarely went. Most people assumed they were extinct or close to it. This one was alive, barely. She approached slowly, hands visible. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Dragons were dangerous. Every child learned that. They could breathe fire, tear through hull plating, speak words that bent reality itself. Approaching one, even a wounded one, violated every safety protocol. But the dragon did not move. Could not move, she realized. The glowing inscriptions were not decorative. They were a prison. She stopped at the edge of the outer ring. The symbols were Old Draconic, a language most scholars knew only from fragments. She had studied it for years, publishing 2 papers on grammatical structure. She could read perhaps 1 word in 10. The words she could read made her stomach turn. Unworthy, betrayer, forgotten, silenced. This was not a prisoner. This was a punishment. The dragon watched her with his one good eye. Intelligence burned there and something else, resignation. He had been here a long time, long enough to stop hoping for rescue. Lena activated her recorder and began documenting the chamber. She photographed every inscription, measured the chamber dimensions, collected atmospheric samples. Professional work, the kind Torvin could not criticize. But her hand shook. When she photographed the inscriptions near the dragon's head, he followed her movement. Not threatening, just watching, aware. She finished her documentation and sat down outside the outer ring. The dragon's eye tracked her. She pulled out her tablet and began working on translations. The old draconic grammar was complex, with layers of meaning embedded in tone and context. Written words carried intent she had theorized in her papers. The symbols were not just language, but something closer to programming code for reality itself. Hours passed. Her suit warned about oxygen levels. She needed to return to her camp and recharge, but leaving felt wrong. This creature had been alone for so long, forgotten by everyone. Before she left, she did something stupid. She spoke one of the symbols aloud, testing her pronunciation. Her voice felt clumsy around the sounds, but she managed something close. The dragon's eye widened. His head lifted an inch, the first movement she had seen. The inscriptions flared brighter, causing him visible pain. He settled back down but kept watching her. He had understood her. One badly pronounced word in a dead language, and he had reacted. Lena made a decision that would cost her career and possibly her life. She was not leaving this moon until she understood what had been done to this creature, and if possible, she would undo it. The dragon watched her go. In his remaining good eye, something that might have been hope flickered like a candle in the dark. 3 days of speaking dead languages into the dark had taught Lena that her university training was worth almost nothing here. The textbooks got the pronunciation completely wrong. She sat cross-legged at the edge of the inscription circle with her tablet balanced on her knees. The dragon, whom she had started thinking of as Ashvir after finding that name repeated in several inscriptions, lay motionless. But his good eye never left her. He was listening, learning her patterns just as she learned his language. The supply runner had come yesterday. Bryn, a Durlathi with 4 arms and no patience, had dropped off 2 weeks of basic rations and refused her request for additional equipment. Director Torvin was cutting her funding. She had 1 month left before forced evacuation. Bryn had looked at Ashvir with disgust, called him a waste of space, and left without another word. The galaxy had decided dragons were failures. Their civilization had collapsed. Their homeworld was uninhabitable. The survivors had scattered and gone silent. From a practical standpoint, studying them made no sense. Better to focus on successful species, on cultures that thrived. Why waste resources on the broken and forgotten? Lena had never agreed with that philosophy. The broken and forgotten had stories worth hearing. She tried another phrase, one she had been practicing for hours. The sounds required her to use parts of her throat that human speech rarely touched. The first syllable needed a rising tone with a guttural bass. The second required splitting her voice into 2 pitches simultaneously, something only trained singers could do. On her 5th attempt, she managed it. The words came out rough and imperfect but recognizable. Ashvir's entire body tensed. The inscriptions around him flared bright enough to make her squint. Then one symbol, a small one near his left foreleg, cracked. Not destroyed, but damaged. The light dimmed, his leg moved. Just an inch, but movement after decades of stillness. Lena's hands trembled as she made notes. She had spoken a reversal phrase, she realized. Not a new word, but an old one spoken backward with intent to undo, like deleting a line of code. But doing it had nearly destroyed her throat. She could taste blood. The sounds were not meant for human vocal cords. Every syllable felt like swallowing broken glass. She needed water, food, rest. Instead, she opened her translation software and searched for the next phrase in the sequence. If the inscriptions were a punishment written in layers, she needed to undo them in reverse order. Like untying a knot by finding the right thread, Ashvir made a sound. Low and resonant like distant thunder. She looked up. He was watching her with an intensity that made her feel seen through, examined down to her intentions. She pulled out her drawing pad and sketched a question mark, holding it up. The dragon studied the symbol. Then slowly, painfully, he lifted his head and dragged one claw through the dust. The shape he drew was crude but clear. A dragon surrounded by others. Combat positions. Fire and violence suggested by simple lines. He drew another image. The same dragon standing apart, refusing to fight. Then a third image. Dragons binding one of their own with symbols, casting him down into darkness. Lena understood. He had refused to fight in some war or conflict. His own people had punished him for it, not for being weak or failing, but for choosing peace. She felt anger burn hot in her chest. They had left him here to suffer alone for wanting to avoid violence. What kind of civilization did that? She started working on the next reversal phrase immediately. Her throat was raw, her voice barely functional, but she did not care. This was wrong. Whatever he had done or not done, leaving a thinking being in eternal punishment was barbaric. The phrases grew harder. The second one required 3 distinct tones layered together. She failed 11 times. On the 12th attempt, Ashvir made that low rumbling sound again. It took her a moment to realize he was helping. His hum provided a bass note that her voice could layer over, making the harmonic structure possible. Together, They broke the second inscription. His foreleg gained another inch of movement. He could bend the joint now. Lena collapsed backward, coughing. Her vision swam. She had pushed too hard. But when she looked at Ashvir, she saw something in his expression that had not been there before. Not hope exactly, something more fragile, the possibility of hope. She pulled herself upright and started on the third phrase. Hours blurred together. Her throat felt shredded. She could no longer taste the blood because everything tasted like copper and pain. But each phrase broke another inscription. Each broken symbol gave Ashvir more movement. His left leg, his right, his neck gaining flexibility, his tail tip twitching. When her voice finally gave out completely, reduced to a whisper that could not carry tone, she had broken 7 inscriptions. 7 out of dozens, maybe hundreds. She lay on the cold stone floor, staring up at the massive chamber ceiling. This would take weeks, months maybe. She did not have that kind of time. Torvin would pull her funding. Bryn would stop bringing supplies. She would be dragged off this moon and Ashvir would remain here, slightly less bound but still imprisoned. She felt the vibration through the floor before she heard it. Ashvir was moving, dragging himself forward despite the pain the remaining inscriptions caused. He stopped just outside the circle, as close as he could get without triggering the full punishment. Then he did something impossible. He spoke in the common galactic tongue, his voice rough from disuse but understandable. Little wordsmith. Stop. You damage yourself. Lena turned her head to look at him. You can speak? I could always speak. I chose silence. Words have power. I swore to use them only when necessary. His good eye held hers. This is necessary. You must not destroy yourself to free me. Why not? Her whisper was barely audible. Nobody else will do it. Ashvir was quiet for a long moment. That is what makes you strange. What makes your kind dangerous and beautiful. You help what others abandon. Lena smiled despite the pain. Then you understand why I cannot stop. The dragon lowered his head in what might have been a nod or a bow. Then we must find a better way. One that does not cost you everything. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow. Tomorrow she would figure out the better way. Tonight she had given a forgotten dragon his voice back. That was enough. Rain on Talus 7 fell sideways because of the thin atmosphere. Lena watched it strike her camp shelter from inside Ashvir's chamber. She had moved her equipment down here 2 weeks ago. No point pretending she was doing regular research anymore. Her voice had recovered slightly. Medical nanites helped with the tissue damage, though they could not fix the fundamental problem. Human throats were not designed for draconic speech. Every reversal phrase cost her, but she had gotten better at it. Practice and Ashvir's coaching made the difference. They worked in tandem now. He would hum the bass frequency. She would layer the harmonic structures over it. Together they created sounds that neither species could produce alone. It should not have worked. Draconic language experts had written extensively about how only dragons could speak the old words properly. Cross-species attempts always failed, except when they did not. 19 inscriptions broken. Ashvir could move his entire left side now. His right remained mostly paralyzed, but progress was progress. He could lift his head without pain, could shift his weight. Small victories that meant everything. Then Counselor Kestra arrived. The Visith bureaucrat materialized via shuttle landing outside the sanctuary. Lena heard the engines from 5 levels down. She checked her terminal. No scheduled visits. Her stomach dropped. Kestra found her an hour later, following the power readings to the lower chamber. The reptilian official stood at the chamber entrance, with 2 security officers, his crest fully extended in a display of authority. Dr. Worth, you were ordered to complete your survey and depart. His voice was cold and precise. Instead, you have been wasting consortium resources on unauthorized activities. Lena stood her ground. I found a living dragon. That changes everything about this site's archaeological value. You found damaged property that was abandoned for good reason. Kestra gestured at Ashvir. Dragons are classified as potentially dangerous entities. This one is clearly defective. It should have been euthanized decades ago. Ashvir's good eye fixed on Kestra. He said nothing. His silence was more threatening than any growl could have been. This facility is scheduled for demolition in 72 hours. Kestra continued. A mining company has purchased rights to this moon. You will evacuate immediately. The creature's fate is not your concern. His name is Ashfear. Lena kept her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. And you cannot just demolish him along with the building. Watch me. Kestra turned to leave. You have until midnight tomorrow to remove yourself and your equipment. After that, security will remove you by force. Your academic credentials will be revoked for insubordination. Director Torvin has already signed the dismissal documents. The Visith left with his guards. The chamber fell silent, except for the soft hum of Lena's equipment. You should go, Ashfear said quietly. Save your career. This was always going to be my ending. Lena looked at him. At the 19 broken inscriptions. At the dozens that remained. How long have you been here? 43 years by galactic standard counting. 43 years alone in the dark. She knelt and opened her equipment case. No. I am not leaving you to die because some bureaucrat decided you are not worth saving. You cannot break all the remaining inscriptions in 72 hours. We have tried. The later ones are more complex. They require multiple phrases in sequence. Then we work faster. She pulled out her recording equipment and started documenting every remaining inscription. You said the old words respond to intent as much as sound, that they work on will and purpose, not just pronunciation. Yes. That is why you can speak them at all. Your intent is pure. You wish to free, not to control. Lena looked up from her work. What if we did not try to break them one at a time? What if we overwrote them all at once? Ashfear's eye widened slightly. You would need a word of power for that. Not a reversal phrase, an actual command phrase. Those require more than pronunciation and intent. They require life force, energy drawn from the speaker's own existence. So it would kill me. Most certainly. What if two people spoke it together? Split the cost? The dragon was silent for a long moment. It has never been attempted. The old words were dragon magic. Humans are not supposed to be able to touch them at all, yet you do. Perhaps together we could survive such a working. Or perhaps we would both die. Lena smiled grimly. Better than leaving you here for the demolition crews. She spent the next day searching through every inscription in the sanctuary, photographing thousands of symbols. Ashfear guided her, explaining which symbols were structural, which were punishment-specific, which were the locks that held everything together. By midnight she had found it. A word of unbinding written on a wall in the deepest chamber. The inscription was ancient, placed there by whoever built the original structure. A failsafe, maybe, or a mercy mechanism for prisoners who had served their time. The word was complex. It required 5 distinct tonal layers, each held for specific durations, building into a harmonic structure that would resonate with the punishment inscriptions and shatter them all simultaneously. Ashfear looked at the word for a long time. If we do this, we may not survive. The backlash from breaking so many inscriptions at once will be immense. If we do not do this, they will bury you in rubble tomorrow night. Lena sat down facing him. I did not come here to play it safe. I came here to learn from the past. You are not just history. You are a living person who was abandoned. If I walk away from that, what kind of person am I? Human. Ashfear's tone held something that might have been admiration. That is what kind you are. Your species does not know when to quit. Is that a compliment or an insult? Both. The dragon shifted his weight, settling into a position of readiness. Very well, little wordsmith. Let us break chains together. They spent the remaining hours practicing. The word had to be spoken in perfect unison. Every syllable synchronized. Ashfear would provide 3 tonal layers. Lena would provide 2, plus the triggering consonants at the beginning and end. Outside, the mining crews arrived. Lena could hear equipment being positioned, charges being set. The demolition would begin at dawn. She and Ashfear faced each other across the inscription circle. Her hands were shaking. His eye was calm. Ready? She asked. I have been ready to be free for 43 years, he replied. Speak true, wordsmith. Speak with every piece of your will. Lena took a deep breath. Then, together, human and dragon spoke the word that would either free them or kill them. The inscriptions began to burn. Light burned through stone. The inscriptions did not break cleanly. They screamed. Lena felt the word leaving her body like blood from an open wound. Every syllable took something vital. Her vision blurred. Her heart stuttered in her chest. But she kept speaking, kept pouring everything she had into the ancient phrase. Ashvir's voice harmonized with hers, deep and resonant. His 3 tonal layers wove around her too, creating a structure that should have been impossible. The word was not just sound. It was intent made manifest. Freedom demanded with such force that reality had to obey. The inscriptions flared white-hot. Then one by one, they shattered. The backlash hit like a physical blow. Lena felt herself thrown backward. Her head struck stone. Darkness swallowed her. When consciousness returned, someone was shouting. Multiple voices. She opened her eyes to see Ashvir standing. Actually standing, all 4 legs holding his weight, his head raised high. The shattered wings still hung at wrong angles, but the inscriptions were gone. Every single one reduced to black scorch marks on the stone. Security personnel surrounded the chamber entrance with weapons drawn. The Visith demolition crew had scattered. Someone was screaming into a radio about rogue dragons and immediate threats. Damon Cross, the human security chief, stood between Ashvir and the panicking crew members. Stand down! The creature is not attacking. It is free. Unbound dragons are code red hazards? A Visith supervisor jabbed a finger at Ashvir. Kill it now before it destroys the facility! He has not moved except to stand up, Damon said firmly. Lower your weapons. That is an order. The crew did not lower anything. They were terrified. Lena could not blame them. Ashvir was massive, even half-crippled. Fully mobile, he would have been unstoppable. But he did not attack. He simply stood in the light coming from the chamber entrance, his scarred face turned upward. After 43 years underground, he was seeing natural light again. Lena tried to stand and nearly fell. Damon caught her arm. Easy. You have been unconscious for 6 hours. Whatever you did triggered every seismic sensor on the moon. We freed him. Her voice was barely a whisper. So I see. Damon helped her to a sitting position. Kestra is having a breakdown. Half the crew wants to call in military support. The other half wants to evacuate immediately. What do you want? Lena asked. The security chief looked at Ashvir. I want to know what happens next. Because in 12 hours they are going to demolish this place whether he is in it or not. Lena forced herself to stand. Her legs felt like water. She approached Ashvir slowly. The dragon lowered his head to her level. How do you feel? She asked. Light. His voice was stronger than before. I had forgotten what it feels like to move without pain. Thank you, wordsmith. Lena. My name is Lena. Lena Worth. The human who speaks old words and breaks ancient chains. Something that might have been a smile crossed his draconic features. Your species is stranger than the legend suggested. A thought struck her. What do you want to do now? You are free. You could leave. Ashvir's good eye studied the chamber entrance, the rocky plains beyond visible in the distance. I want to fly again. To remember what it meant to touch clouds and feel wind. Lena looked at his shattered wings. The broken bones were clearly visible beneath the translucent membranes. Can you heal? Given time? Not naturally. The damage is too old. It has set incorrectly. He flexed one wing experimentally and winced. Dragon healers could fix it. But they abandoned me long ago. I do not expect their help now. What about the old words? Could they heal you? Ashvir went very still. There are words of mending, yes, but they are even more dangerous than unbinding. They require the speaker to give of their own life force in exchange for healing another. It is a trade. Your health for mine. How much would it cost to heal wings this damaged? It would kill whoever attempted it. Lena pulled out her tablet and called up the sanctuary photographs. Somewhere in these thousands of images was a word of mending. She was certain. Cultures that developed punishment inscriptions would also develop healing ones. Balance was a universal principle. She found 3 potential words in the next hour. Ashvir translated each one. The first was too weak. It would heal minor injuries but nothing structural. The second was too strong. It would repair his wings but kill the speaker instantly. The third was complex. It required 3 voices speaking in harmony, but the cost was distributed. Survival was possible. 3 voices, Lena said. You have 2. Your speaking voice and your resonance hum. I can provide a third using throat singing techniques. That might work? Ashfir sounded doubtful. But it will still damage you severely. And we have hours, not days. The demolition begins at dawn. Damon reappeared at the chamber entrance. Lena, I am going to pretend I did not see what happened here. Officially, the dragon was already free when we arrived, and you were injured trying to document it. That buys you until dawn. After that, I cannot help you. Kestra has orders signed by 3 consortium officials. This facility is coming down. Understood. Lena did not look away from the word of mending. Thank you, Damon. The security chief hesitated. For what it is worth, I think what you are doing is right. Nobody should die alone and forgotten, just because they are inconvenient. After he left, Lena and Ashfir began practicing the word of mending. The pronunciation was brutal. Her already damaged throat protested every syllable, but she had come too far to stop now. They practiced through the night. Outside, the demolition charges were being positioned. Dawn approached with mechanical inevitability. We get one attempt, Ashfir said as the first light touched the horizon. The word must be perfect or it will fail entirely. Lena positioned herself in front of him. Then we make it perfect. They spoke together. 3 voices in harmony. The word of mending flowed through them, draining life force and converting it to healing energy. Lena felt her strength pouring out. Her vision darkened at the edges. But Ashfir's wings began to glow. The broken bones shifted, realigning. Tissue regrew. Membranes sealed and strengthened. The word ended. Lena collapsed. Ashfir's wings were still damaged, but they were healing. The process would take hours to complete, and they had minutes. The demolition charges began their countdown sequence. Ashfir looked at Lena's unconscious form, then at his partially healed wings. They could not carry him yet. Could not carry both of them to safety, so he did what dragons had sworn never to do again. He spoke a word of shielding, the same type of word that had started the wars that destroyed his people. His voice echoed through the chamber as the first charges detonated. The shield formed as stone fell. A dome of golden light surrounded Ashfir and Lena, holding back tons of collapsing sanctuary. Cracks spread across the ceiling. Support pillars crumbled. Everything that had stood for thousands of years came down at once. The word of shielding burned through Ashfir like fire. This was why his people had abandoned such words. The cost was too high. His partially healed wings began to fracture again under the strain. His scales, just beginning to regain their color, dulled to ash gray, but the shield held. Outside the dome, the world was ending. The demolition charges had been placed perfectly. The sanctuary collapsed from the top down, each level pancaking onto the one below. In 90 seconds, 5,000 years of dragon history became rubble. Inside the dome, Lena remained unconscious. The word of mending had taken almost everything she had. Her breathing was shallow, her heartbeat irregular. She needed medical attention immediately. Ashfir needed help. His own strength was failing. The shield was draining him faster than expected. He had minutes at most before he could no longer sustain it. Then both he and Lena would be crushed under the weight of broken stone. He made a decision that broke every oath he had taken. He reached out to Lena's unconscious mind. Dragons could do this, touch the thoughts of other beings, but it was considered deeply invasive. A violation of the highest order, but he needed her strength. Not to steal it, but to share the burden. He found her consciousness floating in darkness. Pulled her toward awareness with gentle mental pressure. Her eyes opened, unfocused. Lena, I need your help. One more time. She saw the situation. Understood it immediately. The shield. You cannot hold it alone. No, but together perhaps we can. She dragged herself upright. Her body was screaming at her to rest, to shut down, to stop pushing past human limits. She ignored it all. What do I do? Speak with me. Mirror my word. Add your will to mine. It should not have worked. She was human, exhausted, untrained in sustained word work. But she pressed her forehead against his scaled snout and began to speak. Her voice was a ragged whisper, but she matched his tones, matched his rhythm. The shield strengthened. The golden light brightened. And something impossible happened. The shield did not just hold back the falling stone. It pushed outward. A pulse of pure force that threw debris away from them, that collapsed the positioned drilling equipment above ground, that sent the demolition crews scrambling for cover. The blast was visible from orbit. Commander Eula Grant's survey ship was passing through the system on routine patrol. Her sensors picked up the massive energy discharge. She changed course immediately, broadcasting demands for explanation. The mining company's automated cameras had caught everything. The footage was already uploading to corporate servers, and from there spreading across the galactic network. A human and a dragon speaking words of power in harmony, creating effects that should have been impossible. In the hidden asteroid cluster that housed the Dragon Enclave, ancient beings stirred. Ambassador Sirith had not spoken to the outside galaxy in 300 years. She watched the broadcast footage 4 times before calling the Council of 5 together. "It has happened," she said simply. "The bridge we were told would never come. It is here." Back on Talus 7, the shield finally collapsed. Ashfir and Lena fell together, both unconscious. Around them was a crater 50 meters wide. They lay at the center, surrounded by scattered rubble but somehow unharmed. Damon Cross found them first. He had evacuated with the demolition crew but returned the moment the explosion settled. He knelt beside Lena and checked her vital signs. Weak but present. She was alive. Ashfir's chest rose and fell slowly. His wings, miraculously, were still healing despite everything. The word of mending continued its work even after the speaker had fallen. Eula Grant's ship landed 30 minutes later. The commander was human, career military, and currently very confused. "Someone want to explain what just happened?" "My sensors recorded an energy discharge equivalent to a small nuclear weapon." "They spoke a word of power," Damon said. He was still processing it himself. "Old dragon magic. I saw it happen. That is impossible. Dragons have not used such words in centuries, and humans cannot speak them at all. Tell that to them." Damon gestured at the unconscious pair. Eula examined the crater, the scattered equipment, the recording equipment that had somehow survived the blast. She pulled the data files and watched Lena and Ashfir working together over the past weeks. Watched them break the inscriptions. Watched them speak the unbinding. Watched them hold back a collapsing building through nothing but will and words. "This changes everything," she said quietly. "If humans can speak the old words, if we can work dragon magic in partnership with them, the political implications are enormous. Right now, I am more concerned with keeping them alive," Damon replied. "They need medical attention." Eula made several calls. Within an hour, a medical transport was en route. But other forces were moving too. The Dragon Collective had seen the broadcast. So had the Consortium, the trade guilds, the military hierarchy, and every major species government. Everyone wanted to know how a human had spoken words that should have been impossible for her species. Everyone wanted to understand what it meant. In the medical bay of Eula's ship, Lena finally woke. The first thing she saw was Ashfir in the next bed, his wings wrapped in healing fields. "Did it work?" she whispered. "You brought down a building and announced to the entire galaxy that humans can speak dragon magic," Eula said from the doorway. "So yes, it worked," Lena smiled weakly. "Good. There are 12 different government agencies demanding to speak with you. The Dragon Collective has sent a representative. They are on their way now. This is the first time dragons have contacted the outside galaxy in 3 centuries. Why now? Because of what you did. Because you proved something they thought was impossible." Eula pulled up the viral footage on her tablet. "This has 40 billion views already. You are famous across half the galaxy." Lena looked at Ashfir. The dragon's eyes opened slowly. When he saw her awake, relief crossed his features. "We survived," he said, "against all odds." She reached out. Her hand found his scaled foreleg. "What happens now?" "Now," said a new voice from the doorway. "You come with me." The speaker was a dragon, old beyond measure, scales like polished silver, eyes that held millennia of memory. Ambassador Sirith had arrived. "The Enclave wishes to meet the human who speaks our words and the exile who found worthiness again." Lena and Ashfir looked at each other. Then together they nodded. Their story was just beginning. The Dragon Enclave existed in a place that charts forgot to mention, tucked into an asteroid field that moved through space on calculations only dragons understood. It had been hidden for 3 centuries. Thousands of dragons lived there, building a civilization in isolation. Lena had expected ruins or primitive conditions. Instead, she found a thriving culture. Crystal gardens grew in controlled environments. Libraries held millions of texts. Workshops produced art and technology that blended science with the old words in ways that made her head spin. HFY walked beside her through the main concourse. His wings were fully healed now. The word weavers had spent days completing what she had started, using techniques refined over millennia. He could fly again. She had seen him take flight that morning, spiraling up through the central shaft with such joy that it made her chest ache. Ambassador Sirith led them to the council chamber. The 5 eldest dragons waited there, each representing a different aspect of their scattered civilization. They were massive, ancient, and currently very focused on Lena. "Explain," said the first counselor, a deep green dragon whose name translated roughly as eldest. "How does a human speak our words?" Lena had prepared for this question. She pulled up comparative anatomy scans on her tablet. Human vocal anatomy is unusually flexible. We have languages on Earth that use tones, clicks, harmonic structures. Our throats can produce a wider range of sounds than most species. But the old words require more than sound, Sirith interjected. They require intent, purpose, connection to the ancient ways. Yes, Lena organized her thoughts carefully. But humans have something else. We preserve dying languages. On Earth, we maintain records of thousands of dead tongues. We study them not for practical use, but because we believe knowledge should not be lost. When I spoke your words, I was not trying to control or dominate. I was trying to understand, to preserve, to free someone who was suffering. The second counselor, silver-scaled and scarred, leaned forward. The words responded to that intent. They did. "This should not be possible," the third counselor said. "We withdrew from the galaxy because other species could not understand our ways. They saw the words as weapons, as tools for domination. They could not speak them, could not learn them, and so they feared them, feared us." "I do not fear you," Lena said quietly. "I spent weeks sitting with HFY, learning from him, working with him as an equal, not as a master or servant. As a partner." HFY stepped forward. "The council should know the full truth. I was exiled for refusing to weaponize the words. During the faction wars, I chose peace. My own people considered that cowardice. They bound me with punishment inscriptions and left me to die slowly over decades." Sirith's expression was pained. "We did not know you survived, HFY. We thought you had passed into the final dark. I would have if not for her." He gestured to Lena. "She found me, freed me, spoke words that no human should be able to speak because she saw a thinking being in pain and chose to help." The council was silent for a long moment. Then Eldest spoke. 3 centuries ago, we withdrew because we believed no other species could understand us, that we were alone in the galaxy. We see now that we may have been wrong. Not entirely wrong, Lena said carefully. Most species probably still cannot speak the old words, but humans might be able to. And if we can, we could serve as bridges, translators, helping other species understand dragon culture without fearing it. "You propose partnership," the fourth counselor said, "between dragons and humans. I propose mutual respect and shared knowledge. You teach us about the words, their history, their proper use. We help you reconnect with the galaxy in ways that do not trigger fear or hatred." The fifth counselor, youngest of the 5 but still ancient, spoke for the first time. "And what does humanity want in return?" Lena smiled. "To learn, to understand, to make sure that civilizations like yours are not forgotten just because they are different or misunderstood." The council deliberated in private. Lena and HFY waited outside the chamber. She felt the weight of what she was proposing. This could reshape galactic politics, or it could fail spectacularly. "Whatever they decide," HFY said quietly, "you have already changed my world. I was ready to die forgotten. You gave me freedom and flight again. That is worth more than any political outcome." "You gave me something too," Lena replied. "Purpose, understanding, proof that reaching across impossible divides is worth the cost." The council called them back. Sirith spoke for all 5. "We have decided. The Dragon Enclave will reveal itself to the galactic community, but we will do so with conditions." She turned to Lena. "Humans will serve as intermediaries, not servants, not masters, partners. You will be the first Dr. Worth, the first wordsmith of the renewed Dragon Alliance. You will help us bridge the gap between our people and theirs. You will teach others what you have learned." Lena felt the magnitude of the offer. "I accept. But I have a condition too." The council looked surprised. Humans negotiating with dragons was new territory. Ashfir must be pardoned, fully and publicly. He chose peace over violence. That should be honored, not punished. Eldest rose to his full height. Ashfir, keeper of written knowledge, speaker for peace, your exile is ended. Your honor is restored. The punishment inscriptions placed upon you were unjust. We acknowledge this error. Ashfir bowed his head. Lena saw moisture in his good eye. Over the following months, the Dragon Enclave opened its borders. Dragons began appearing at consortium stations, at trade hubs, at academic conferences. The galaxy reacted with shock, then curiosity, then cautious acceptance. Humans served as bridges just as planned. Lena trained others in the basics of Old Draconic. Not everyone could speak the words, but enough could to make communication possible. The fear began to fade. On a clear day, 6 months after leaving Talus 7, Lena stood on a platform in the Enclave's highest tower. Ashfir landed beside her, his healed wings powerful and true. "Ready?" he asked. She climbed onto his back, settling between his shoulder blades. Ready, they took flight together, human and dragon, wordsmith and keeper of ancient knowledge. Below them, the Enclave thrived. Around them, the galaxy was learning that what seemed broken could be healed, that what seemed impossible could be achieved, that sometimes the greatest power was not strength or technology, but the willingness to reach across the void and say, "You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are worth saving." Ashfir spoke a new word as they flew, one he and Lena had created together over long evenings of practice. A word that had no equivalent in any other language. The common tongue translation was simple: belonging. The word echoed across space. In distant systems, dragons heard it and remembered what they had left behind. They began to return, not to conquest or dominance, but to connection, and at the heart of it all was a broken old dragon that nobody wanted, and a human who read the words that changed everything. Their story would be told for generations, not as a tale of heroes, but as a reminder that empathy can reshape worlds, that reaching out to the abandoned and forgotten can create new possibilities, that sometimes the most important discoveries are not about technology or power, but about understanding and connection across impossible divides. Lena Worth became the first wordsmith. Others followed. The bridge between dragons and the rest of the galaxy grew stronger each year, but she never forgot where it started. In a dark chamber with a suffering creature that everyone else had abandoned, and a choice to stay when it would have been easier to leave. That choice changed the galaxy, and it all began with words.